Hi everyone, I'm Sandy Hernandez, founder of the Retail Muse project and your aspiring Chief Inspiration Officer. Welcome to the very first episode of the Retail Muse project. I'm coming to you from London here in the UK. I'm actually sitting here at Thameside, and we're right in the middle of yet another lockdown 2.0, where many shops and restaurants, what we classify as non-essential retailers, were forced to close their doors for 4 weeks. For episode 1, I really wanted to help those businesses that had to close their doors during this very critical pre-Christmas time period. So last week, I had the great opportunities to sit down with Ian Johnston, who's the founder and creative director of Quinine, which is a retail design agency. And we had a chat to brainstorm some ideas for what you could do while your stores are closed. So without further ado, here is part 1 of episode 1, where Ian describes what's different about this lockdown and what you should be doing right now as a retailer.
This time tomorrow, a fading memory. I wanna wake up without sorrow. I wanna step out in a world that's brighter. We are the people of tomorrow. We stand together, raise our hands up higher, higher.
Hi, welcome to the Retail Muse project. Hi, Ian.
Hi, Sandy. How you doing?
Good. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Virtually. One of these days we have to actually meet.
I hope.
Person. Yes.
Exactly. I hope that's on the horizons for us.
Yes. So here we are again in another lockdown in the UK. We've had many months under our belts in terms of learning the lessons of how to get through it, both as individuals, but then also as retailers, right? So we're now, again, lockdown 2.0. So what makes this one different than the first one?
Wow. Well, it's really interesting, Sandy. I think we learned a lot, the first lockdown, and we had a lot of fear, I think. At that moment, and a lot of things were unknown, right? So we know a lot more going into lockdown this time. And I think what we really need to start to do as retailers, you need to use this time, right? Like this is another window of opportunity. Well, I would start thinking about a number of things, 2 real avenues or routes to consider, right? We need to start planning for what's around the corner when we all come back. I think the real difference is that we can now understand that this is not a temporary solution. This is the way our new normal. I promise I won't use that phrase again. But tomorrow's normal is here today, right? And we know that this uncertainty and this webbing of flowing is probably going to be how we survive in the future. And so it's no longer temporary. It's not a temporary solution that's needed. People have got to stop thinking tactically and start thinking strategically. I think that's the big difference. Before we were reacting, right? Just to make sure we knew what was, pulling stock out of stores. And, it was a mad dash. There was a lot of chaos. There was unknown. This, we should be much more pragmatic and much more focused strategically rather than just tactical solutions. So I think that's the big difference. We can see a future where this normal is part of it. And I think we need to plan for that. So for me, that's the big difference, right? It's a much more strategic approach is needed this time for the long term. I would try to kind of think about that future and plan for the future, but I would also use this time wisely to engage and interact with my customers and make sure I started to build relationships. And so I think it's much more complex as well at this time because I'm going to be thinking about today and I'm going to be thinking about tomorrow as well. So there's more things to think about that we need to consider going forward.
That's a valid and great point, because I think also, and I think something that we talked about before too, is about turning on and turning off this switch that happens when the pandemic comes or quarantine comes around again.
Absolutely. I think, as I said, this here in the UK, we have this tiered structure that the government is putting in place. Before we got to lockdown, we were in a tiered structure, and that the flexibility that demanded, the need to pivot from one place to the next, right? One week your store may be open, the next week your store may be shut down or in lockdown.
Yeah.
So you need systems and infrastructure in place that will allow you to do that. It can't be just closing up the doors and shutting up shop. You need to maintain something. And so that flexibility that will be in our lives forever, I think, is something we're going to need to address and have systems and agile formats. And there's another buzzword that I said I wouldn't use, but it's really important that agility we have. It's more important now than ever before, I think.
Money work.